Okay, the Big Ten preseason media poll out. Nebraska comes in at 8. I was a voter in this poll. There were 27 votes that went in the poll. And I will tell you this, I nailed really, I believe the top 10. I think I had the top 10 or top 11 pretty much in order how it came out. Ohio State won. Not consensus, though. I was actually somewhat surprised that Oregon has 6 votes.
Whoa, we are totally opposite on that take. I thought Oregon would get more votes than that. I was surprised Ohio State was that resoundingly the favorite. Thought it'd be closer.
I think it's about right.
Okay.
I mean, I think Ohio State's the better team.
I do too.
I think Oregon's really good, in which they deserved some votes.
Right.
But I think that if I were to pick an overwhelming favorite, I'd go Ohio State.
Ohio State got 21 first place.
Oregon lost twice last year to Washington, right?
Yes.
And they were favored in both games.
Yep. Those are, yeah. I'm glad you mentioned that. I mean, that's the sort of the red splotch on Dan Lanning's record. Lost twice to Washington.
Supposedly they had better players, in terms of
Oregon.
Yeah. And got outdrawn. I mean, those were very good games, obviously, but Ohio State, Oregon, Penn State 3.
Makes sense. Ahead of Michigan. What I've been saying is Penn State looks a horse length better than Michigan to me. Not way better, but enough better. Michigan loses. I think Michigan loses its entire offensive line. Now, Penn State does lose 3 starting offensive linemen, but has its quarterback back.
And it's running back.
Penn State has 2 good running backs.
I was going to say plural.
Penn State has 2 good running backs back, and Michigan's going to try to make it work with Donovan Edwards, who I like. He's a big play threat, but doesn't strike me as a grinding down to down.
He's not Blake Corum.
No, hammer you like Corum did. So I don't know what that's going to look like.
And then Iowa, 5th. And, it's just funny. I think when you look at the perception of Iowa, you think they're on the downward slide, but they had a very good year last year in terms of wins. And they had to manage a season without a quarterback. And they did. They figured out ways to win games. They hammered Wisconsin in a typical. They have 4 first-team All Big Ten level defenders.
They are loaded.
Their defense is really, really good.
And they have
really good.
Cade McNamara back. They have the best tight end, maybe Luke Lachey in the Big Ten.
I don't know about that. Colson Loveland and Warren
if he was healthy,
they're all good, Sean. I mean, I'm not.
He's an NFL.
He could be in that conversation for sure if he bounces back off that injury.
This is a good tight end league. It's really good. But you're right. Iowa is. This is where you give Phil Parker a lot of credit. What's always good at Iowa? Phil Parker's defense.
I mean, special teams.
He's the Charlie McBride of Iowa. I mean, they have a really good defensive.
And their schedule is set up for them to possibly win 10 games.
Yes, there you go.
They have Ohio State. That is the only game when you look at it, like, okay, they'll lose that game probably. Other than that, their other 11 games are winnable opportunities. And when I had Iowa at 5th in my poll, but tell me where the second loss is on that schedule.
Ooh, that is a good schedule.
I mean,
Maryland will be tough. Maryland will be tough. You saw their roster when it came into Lincoln. That's a good-looking team.
But that's a great schedule.
It is.
Washington,
really,
new coach.
It's like Nebraska.
Michigan State, new coach. Northwestern's in Iowa City. Wisconsin's in Iowa City. UCLA, new head coach. Wow. I mean, that's a great schedule.
They got a good schedule. 10, yeah. They look like a 10. That looks like a 10-win schedule.
Like, they'll probably lose another one on there. But if they go 10-2, they're a possible playoff team.
Yeah. I want to see what McNamara is. McNamara, is he going to be the quarterback for sure?
Yeah.
Is he?
Oh, yeah.
Okay.
I mean, as long as he stays on track, he's firmly in the front.
I mean, he's their NIL guy that they've put their chip on.
Yeah.
It's just a matter if he stays healthy, he'll be good. He'll be the guy.
All right, Iowa 5th.
USC 6, and I think nobody really knows what USC is going to be.
That looks high. They're really. I think they're still too deficient up front on defense to be that high.
In Wisconsin 7, and Robin and I debated this in Nebraska 8th. Robin thought Nebraska should be over Wisconsin. My argument is Nebraska has only beat Wisconsin 1 time in 13 years.
Yeah, but that has nothing to do with 2024. What I'm saying is Nebraska is, I mean, 7-8, it's hard to argue it too much. My general gripe is and picking them 7th doesn't maybe suggest it, but I think there's a lot of people giving too much credit to Wisconsin just because they're Wisconsin. If you look at what they lost a lot. I mean, they've lost their quarterback. They lost their all Big Ten running back. They lost a bunch of guys on the offensive line, and they got a really hard schedule. If you pull up their schedule, I mean, we talked to for our spring opponent reviews. I talked to a guy named Zach Halpern, who's a radio guy up in Madison, and he said that he thinks Wisconsin's going to be better than they were a year ago, but because of that schedule, they're probably going to be 7-5 again.
Wow, Fickle,
that was his projection.
Fickle, 2 straight 7-5s.
Mm-hmm. That would be 3 in a row for him. Like 7-6, 7-5. So that's what I'm saying. Like they're one of those teams where like Iowa is probably Iowa, but because of that schedule, you vault them up a few
Here's
pegs.
the thing. This is what I think we have to get used to as media and fans. We're going to say, wow, Wisconsin 7-5 again. That's like 9-3 of the past. With these schedules now, we can't look at 7-5 like we used to, right? Mm-hmm. Look at Wisconsin.
Well, 9-3 is now playoff.
Right. Yeah. Right. You see what I'm saying? 7-5 like an NFL team, you're like, okay, they're fine.
Mm-hmm. Especially when you look at where those 7 wins are coming.
The key, you have to win those non-conference games.
No
like
doubt.
You have to get a 3-0 cushion.
Yep.
To build up on.
Yeah, I wouldn't load up in the non-con either.
Well, I think then you look at the surprise. I mean, you look at the bottom 9 through 18.
Okay.
How about Rutgers? I mean, that is just an ultimate nod of respect.
They're a popular dark horse.
Rutgers is picked higher than the team that finished runner-up for the national championship.
You're right.
Maryland, who had one of its best years in recent history. Northwestern, who had a great year. UCLA, who has great talent still, even though they're new. You go down the line, but Rutgers, 9th. And that's the toughest of Nebraska's first 7 games. Take out Colorado. That's the highest ranked team they play in that preseason poll because Illinois, Purdue, Indiana are further down the line. So their first 7, that Rutgers game will be the highest ranked opponent Nebraska plays until they see Ohio State.
That's why I keep saying it's a 50-50 game in this sort of back.
It's in Lincoln, though. That's key.
I know. It looks like a 50-50 game,
That's
though.
Big. Rutgers is always tough. The issue is they just have their quarterback play has kept a really low ceiling for them. Like they're always
more
going to be kind of middle.
That.
And now they have Ethan Kaliakmanis, former Minnesota starting quarterback.
They got their TJ Maxx
and
quarterback.
So they'll go as far as he takes them. I know it's not like it's a huge upgrade, but can he be serviceable enough to help them take that step from 6-6, 7-5 to 8 wins?
8, yeah. You look at the bottom of the conferences. When I look at conferences' strength, I look at the bottom. How tough is it at the bottom? This is a tough bottom. I mean, you look at the final 18, the lowest ranked teams in this conference. 3 of them beat Nebraska last year. I mean, these are tough teams. Maryland's a tough team.
Indiana's going to score a ton of points.
Yeah.
They might not have a defense, but they're going to score a ton of points.
People kept telling me, oh, Sipple, Nebraska will go into Spartan Stadium and roll Michigan State. You saw that game. Michigan State outslugged
with an
Nebraska.
Interim coach.
Hey, they outslugged Nebraska. That's what I was sitting by Sean. I kept saying, Sean, they're losing in the trenches.
No, Coach Rule told me that they were as physical of a team as they played all year.
Yeah, they were
that game.
They beat up Nebraska in the trenches. I mean, and look at where Michigan State is. 16.
I know.
It's a tough league, baby. It's a tough league.
Yeah, it's going to get tougher. That's the thing. It's not getting easier as this money pushes its way through the rosters, the $22 million per team, and we'll talk about that more in our next segment. There's no excuse not to have good players. None.
No, there's not.
None.
You're right. There's really not. Even at the places that traditionally don't.
Because you have an advantage over the ACC and the Big 12 now.